Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I wanted to spend some time talking about the camera that I use every day for all of my personal and commercial projects, both for photography and for videography, and that is the Sony A6300. I bought it a little over a year ago, and I have a lot of really great things to say about it, and then just a couple things that are not the best. So let's go ahead and get into it. So one of the reasons why I bought it is because the size. I think it's a really good form factor, and as far as it being like portable, easy to use. If you compare it to DSLRs, they're a lot bigger, much heavier, which are not a big deal, but now more and more a lot of people are doing run and gun stuff, so you really want to be able to have your setup as minimal as possible, and that way your weight in your backpack is a lot less, and then even when you're putting it on, whether it's a gimbal or a tripod, everything that you're doing is just a lot more comfortable. And then even if you're holding it for hours at a time with different gigs, it's just easy. It's not something that's a burden. So that's one reason why I bought it. I spent about 2 or 3 months doing research on this camera and comparing it to a lot of other cameras. I had a couple Canon cameras in mind that I was thinking of doing, which is what I started with several years back. And then I compared it to what Panasonic was offering, and to me, Sony was just giving you the most bang for your buck. And of course, there's a lot of really great cameras on the market, but this was one that I found to be a good price, as well as having the features that I want. So a couple of the features that I wanted to let you guys know about that made me want to purchase it is that it shoots in 4K. So there's a lot of cameras that of course do 1080p, but now the more quality you can get, typically the better your footage is, especially if you're pairing it with great lenses. And why not get the higher resolution for multiple reasons. So I got the 4K, that way I could be able to shoot commercial projects and have a lot better quality, because 1080p is becoming so standard. We're kind of getting spoiled with the way that looks, so now it's time to take things to the next level. So that was one reason why I bought it. And one of the benefits to that is sometimes if, for example, this scene here, if I have it shooting in 4K right now, if for any reason I want to just zoom in, twice and have more of my face in it, I can do that and still keep the quality without, sacrificing any of the quality. So it's just little things like that where you just have those options, versus if this was 1080p and then I tried to do that, you can still pull it off, but you'd lose a lot of the quality. So having 4K was definitely a plus. Another thing that of course is obvious, but for some people, if you're just getting into purchasing your camera, then this may not be something you'd know, but I wanted to have something that gave me the opportunity to switch lenses and to have a wide variety of lenses, because some cameras come out and they do have different lens options, but that bracket is so small. With this one, there's plenty of options that I could choose from the Sony lineup, from the Sigma lineup, even Tamron has some for this camera, I believe. So that was another thing. I just wanted to be able to make that easy and not put myself where I'm limited on what lenses I could purchase it for. What else? Let's see. Oh yeah, of course, slow motion. So of course you could shoot in 60 frames per second, or for those that may not know, 60 pictures per second, but put together in a video. This one lets you do 120 frames. So when I'm shooting slow motion, I can really get crisp shots and have something dramatically slowed down, versus me trying to do that in Premiere and slow down the footage that I shot at regular speed in a sense. So this one in camera, I can shoot 120 frames per second of something going by nice and slow, and have that. So some cameras do not shoot 120. There's some that do 240, like the Panasonic GH5, I believe, and GH4 maybe. But most cameras are kind of capping out at 60. And then this one, it already had it, so that was definitely a plus for me too. So another thing that was huge, because I knew I would be doing video and not only photography, and that was to have a microphone input. There's some cameras that have really great quality, really great features, but they don't have an input for a microphone. And if you're going to be doing, video projects, that is a must. That way you don't have to worry about all these other accessories that you'll need to get just to record audio. That's not really convenient at all. And then you have to factor in that you have to spend more money on all these other accessories that you could have just got with the camera that has it. So a microphone input was definitely a big plus, and it works fine. It works great for me. One side note would be that I've noticed Sony cameras, I haven't compared them all, but I have friends with Canon cameras, and a lot of the audio that it gets, it's not as good as the Sony. So this one is just on a $50 Rode mic, which sounds, in my opinion, really great for 50 bucks. But I use the same one on some of the like T3Is, T6Is, I believe, and just other Canon lineups. And their internal like audio chip, I can't remember the name, but their audio chip in the camera is just not as good. Their camera, the microphone amps in there, they're noisy. It just has a lot of just different sounds. But this one, it has a really good one to be just in camera without me having to have it run through separate devices for audio quality. This is straight from the camera, but of course with the mic attached. So I really like it. That's definitely a plus. So something to keep in mind that you may not be able to test, but that's definitely something, a feature. That's definitely a feature you'd want to look out for. One thing too that was really a bonus feature, it's not a need, but the more I use it, it's definitely a plus, which is to have the electronic viewfinder. So a lot of cameras, when you're looking at the back, in order to see the footage or the photo you're about to take, you're limited to the viewfinder on the side, which is just kind of, some of them, they're literally just like glass where you can just see through the frame in a sense. This one is electronic, so the benefits of that is if it's, really bright outside or dark or whatever, you're literally looking at a mini TV as you're peeping through the viewfinder, which is really great, and then you get all this data on the screen too, compared to, let's say, some of the like older Canons that may be in this price point that are good cameras, but you're just looking through like a clear glass kind of, and then looking out of whatever's coming through the lens, and then you're only able to see like ISO and maybe the f-stop and a couple things. But this one I could see literally everything that would be like almost on the menu. I could see that through that little screen, so that's a big plus to be able to have that, because then you get a better idea of what colors are looking like. Sorry, I'm shooting outside, so it's all kind of noise. But you can get a better idea of what colors are looking like, if you're overexposed, underexposed, how something is moving too, because when you first get started, you may not have a monitor. I still don't have one, but I'm working up to it. But there's little things where, let's say you're shooting someone running or you're shooting a car going by, and so with that electronic viewfinder, you can literally see, get a great preview of the quality of how it's capturing certain moving things and just a lot of important details that you'll want to have in view as you're making your project. So that's another thing that I really love. Another great feature, I do a lot more sports photography now too. So for example, if I'm shooting someone swinging a golf club, that's a lot of movement, and so the camera, with this camera, it shoots 11 pictures per second basically. So what that means is as someone's swinging, it's literally getting 11 shots of them doing that at very high speeds all in 1 second. So the benefit of that, of course, is you have 11 chances really to just capture that really great photo, and then you can capture all of it in pretty clear motion. So it has the continuous autofocus, which is really great, which is definitely another reason why I bought it. The autofocus is really good. That's something that a lot of people, when they're first getting into camera, they don't really know much about. I know I didn't, but having a camera that you could just rely on to focus and nail the focus really quickly is a big plus. So this one has a couple different settings for how it focuses on moving objects, how it knows the difference between a face and the background, and just all these different things that it tracks very well as you're taking photos or as you're shooting video content. So I can rely on it 99% of the time. It does a really great job. So I love it. Of course, it depends on your lenses that you have too. Some are gonna have stronger autofocus than others, but this is just the kit lens itself that came with the camera, and even that is really good. So of course, as you move up, you typically get better quality autofocus and colors and all that jazz. So that's another reason why I bought it. So of course no camera is perfect, and this one definitely has its weaknesses. One of them, which you may have found as you're doing research about this camera, is the battery. So the battery life itself, that's fine to me because I do have like 4 batteries that I keep on me, so that's not a big problem at all. But the bigger issue I would say would be that they heat up, especially when you're shooting in 4K. I've made an adjustment in camera that basically prevents the camera from turning off when it is getting warm, which, you know, is kind of risky, so you obviously have to do that at your own risk. But I haven't had any issues with it, and I try not to let it have that notification of being hot too long. But what would happen before is when I did not have that setting on, the battery would get hot, it would flash for maybe 30 seconds and then immediately turn off, which when you're shooting certain projects, you can't have that happening, and you don't want to be missing any important scenes. So I turned it off where it just lets the battery, you know, stay warmer, and then the camera body itself gets warm, and then I just, you know, as soon as I have a chance, as quickly as possible, then I'll just switch the battery out and then keep recording again. So I know there's some great options where you can add like a battery to the body. That way it's not internally inside, it's just more on the outside, so then you don't have to worry about the heating up. But for me, I just keep 4 batteries on me, keep it on my side, and then if I have to switch it out really quick, I just, you know, turn the camera off, pop the new one in, and then keep recording. So it's more noticeable in the summertime when it's 110 degrees outside or wherever you live. That's when I notice it does it a lot more. Wintertime, it doesn't heat up as much, but that's definitely something you'll want to keep in mind. So the only other downside that I really see with this camera would be that it doesn't have the flip screen. Of course, all the Canon cameras, they typically will tilt out and then you can rotate them as you need to. This one, it only flips one way. So if I'm looking at the camera this direction, it'll only flip up or down and extend a little bit, but that's about it. I've gotten used to it. I am looking to get a monitor soon. That way I could just always have it on top or to the side, depending on my rig. And then that way I could always see whatever I'm doing, which is much better than a flip out anyway. So it's really not a big deal. You get used to kind of looking at things through the viewfinder, which is a much better accurate display of what you're getting in the photo or what you're getting in the video. So those would be the downsides that I would say. Other than that, it's really great. One thing that I would say is that it's Sony's cameras, the software that they have, yes, it does take some time to figure out. So when you do buy it, you're gonna have to spend some time really studying what features are available. But I compare it to like iPhone versus Android, for example, where iPhone's simple and basic, really great, and then Android also great, but a lot of different, you know, apps and features to figure out, but you get a lot more options, and that's how this camera is. Like, yes, compared to Canon and others, it is a lot harder to figure out how the software works and where the settings are, but once you get it down, like, it's really easy. I can breeze through flipping from photo into video and then other video settings and switching from regular speed to slow motion. I can do it all in a matter of seconds now because I've learned the camera so much. So regardless of what camera you get, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time figuring out how the features work, what they do, what your camera weaknesses are, and so you're just gonna have to spend a lot of time just learning your baby and figuring out what it can do and how well it can do certain things. So that's something to keep in mind, but you can definitely do it. There's a lot of really great videos on YouTube where it'll take you step by step on how to do how to make adjustments with your autofocus, or how to save someone's face if you're, you know, shooting a wedding and you want it to only focus on the bride and not the other people in the crowd. There's a million different settings, it seems like, which is great because you have a lot of options. So packed with features, great price, it's really a great camera, and that's why I love it, and I'm really happy I chose it. And so as far as the work that I do, it's really great for photography as well. I know I highlighted video a lot because video takes a lot more capabilities from a camera. I feel like pictures is something that's pretty easy for any camera to do nowadays. But photography, it's super, super good. I love it, especially when you start getting into some of the prime lenses that you could put on, or even some of the zoom lenses. I'm able to get some really nice shots, and then of course I'm just getting better as a photographer as well. And as far as video, I'm very pleased with how how the quality is. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but a lot of that can be changed with lenses and just, you know, getting better as a videographer as well, learning what your camera limits are. And so that's what you'll have to do, is just really test out what you can do and what you can't do, and figure out how to make the most of that, and you'll be so happy with this purchase. There's a lot of new ones coming out, but this one being from, I believe, 2014, you can't really top the quality for the price. Of course, you could spend more, get the 6400, get the 6600 that came out, but I would invest in a cheaper camera that gives you great quality that you can upgrade, versus getting one that you're spending $2,000 on and still have to get lenses. This one, I think you can get the body only for even, you know, $500 to $600, and they just discontinued it, so you can definitely get a really good rate on it. So if you have any questions about it, or if you want to get my input about it, just leave a comment below, send me a message if you see this on Instagram or Facebook, and then I'd love to help you out. It's something that I've had for over a year, and I think it's a really great camera, but do your research, figure out what works best for you depending on what type of shooting you have to do. That's going to vary what type of camera you need, but for run and gun, photography, and videography, I think it's a great option. So thank you so much for watching. See you later. Peace.